2023 was one of the most important years for Ninjago in forever. Yeah, I mean, it started out a little mid with more Evo sets for some reason, but then we got into the summer wave with Dragons Rising, which gave us a soft reboot of the series and introduced some new characters, and oh yeah, it also gave us some pretty cool sets. So let's look at the best of the best. Now I know I just kind of roasted the Evo sets, but this is the first legit Coal Dragon set that we've had in years, and there are a lot of things to like here. The new head mold was really cool and the horns look great, the spike detailing on the back also looks really good, and this mini saddle build was a really nice detail. So on the surface, the dragon looks pretty good, especially for an Evo dragon. But that's just on the surface. When you get a little bit deeper, a lot of problems emerge. The articulation on this set is the biggest issue, with the legs being so small that even though they move, they aren't really useful, and the same can be said about the wings. The head also just straight up can't move at all, which really sucks. And then, like a lot of sets from this year, it is a little bit overpriced at $35. But even with all that said, this is still a pretty solid set for what it is, even if it could have been better. This is another set that is pretty solid but a little bit overpriced. The design here came out pretty good with the unique dark red and coral color scheme, and the transformation function is super easy to use, and it does give this set a whole different look, which I think is a very useful thing to have. Although I do think the shooter for the Dragon Energy Core is kind of hard to use and honestly not that great, but other than that, this was a pretty good set all around. The set also was the cheapest way to get my favorite minifigure of the whole year, which is Lord Roz, but like I said, while the set is good, it's not $55 good. Now this is hands down the coolest design set of the year. It takes the concept of Heatwave, but it brings it to the next level with an actual transformation that takes this set from a mech into a bike, and it completely changes how you use this set, and it does this while maintaining an actual good look for both of the vehicles. Speaking of which, I really like the overall aesthetics that they went for this vehicle with the white, blue, and pink, as well as the sticker detailing, which I think just looks really good. This set is also great if you want to get all of the new characters because it came with Sora, Aaron, and Ryu. However, like most of these sets, this one suffers from being overpriced at a very weird $48 price point, but I don't mind it as much as some of the other sets because I do feel like you get a lot of value here. Now this kind of feels like the safe one to me because it has all of the ingredients to be the best set, but there is one thing that holds it back. The dragon here is awesome. The shades of blue mixed in with the yellow looks great, and it's got a ton of cool details like these new lightning pieces. It also has the mini jet that can be used to combine with the dragon, which changes the look, and simply put, this dragon has pretty much everything you could possibly want from a dragon. The Mecha Beatrix also is pretty solid with a cool steampunk aesthetic and a mostly good design, although I do think that the feet are flawed because for some reason they made them so they don't sit completely flat on the ground, which makes the stability here a little bit worse than it could have been for really no reason at all. That being said though, the stability isn't really that bad by any means, and most of the time it's not going to bother you. But what holds this one back once again is the price. $130 is just too much for the set, man, and it's a shame because as a set, this is up there with the best regular sets of the year, and pretty much anyone would love it if they got it, but the price is just too difficult to justify. Now I debated for a long time whether or not to put this one in the top 3 or in the middle because I really do love the look of this set. The Dragon Rising wave did a lot of small changes to the color schemes of the ninja, and Zane is one which I think really benefited from that. They leaned more into the blue and the trans light blue highlights instead of using the normal silver, and man does it work well. I really love the front of the vehicle with those lightning pieces we saw in the J-Dragon used as ice here, but obviously the big thing is the function, which pretty much turns the set into one giant spinner thanks to those new Dragon Energy Core pieces. This set is pretty much the best of both worlds, being both really cool looking but also really fun. Unfortunately though, for the millionth and thankfully last time in this video, this set is a little bit overpriced at $35, which even though it's not that bad compared to other sets like that J-Dragon, that slight value difference does hold it back when you compare it to some of the other sets we got this year. Now this is one I know most people probably weren't even thinking would find its way among the best sets of the year, let alone the top 5, but people do not appreciate how good this set is. This is easily, in my opinion, one of the best $10 sets of all time. The build looks really good, it's actually pretty sizable even though it is at a cheap price, and there's no real problems with it. The only thing I would want from this set is an extra minifigure to be a villain so you can actually have something to battle with, and then maybe a better windshield piece so the sides of the cockpits aren't completely exposed. But when you factor in the quality of the actual set and the price you pay, you just can't not love this set. This is the sole location set from this year, but it is a good one. Like a lot of the Dragon Rising sets, it takes a similar formula, but it changes it up just a little bit. On one side, we've got a mostly traditional temple build with a little bit of a difference in the colors from what we usually expect, with this being the first temple to use dark blue for the roof, but it still includes all the functions we've come to expect from Ninjago temples. But that other side is completely different, being a full-on tree build, and I gotta say, I do really like that idea. It's simple, but it makes it completely different from any other Ninjago temple, and it makes this one super memorable for that reason. And there is still a ton of usable space inside that tree section for the minifigures, which is obviously something you want to see from a set like this. Also, a small detail that I really like is that the tree has yellow leaves, which is once again a little bit different from what you would expect, but it still looks great. This is a set that there's not really a lot to dislike here, and really all it does is just take a lot of the normal formula and just flip it around a little bit, but it's great for that reason. Now at first glance, this is a set that seems a little bit weird because it's got 6 legs, and it's not really like any dragon that we've gotten before, but in person, this is a great set. There is so much great shaping on this set, and there is a ton of great detailing. From the sand blue on the other side, to the shaping of the legs, to the spikes on the back, and the flags on the saddle, you can tell there was a lot of laboring done over the design on this set, and it definitely paid off. I also really like the look of the wings with the trans blue and gold blending in perfectly. Now the 6 legs, while I don't mind the look of, I also don't think they're great either. The middle legs, honestly, they're just more annoying than they are useful because they're difficult to pose, and then they're constantly getting in the way when you try to move this thing around. So I wouldn't say it's perfect by any means, but I still wouldn't say it's necessarily bad. This is also the only set from this whole year that Pixel comes in, which is pretty cool, and it's also worth mentioning that there is an alternate build, which even though I think it's weird and honestly not that good, it's still a cool option to have. Now speaking of mechs, this is the biggest mech set we got in 2023 and the best one in my opinion. It's got a very sleek and slender design, which is different from the bulkier mechs that we've seen in more recent years, which does make it stand out when you compare it to a lot of the other sets, but it also does make it look awkward at some points, like the torso, which just feels really small compared to the arms and legs. The mech also has a ton of options for weapons, with 1 giant sword, 2 removable smaller swords, and then these giant shoulder cannons that are fully adjustable. I feel like the most divisive thing about this set is the color scheme, because it uses the blue and white, which, while that is a good looking color scheme, it is kind of weird for a J vehicle, so a lot of people look at this set and they're kind of like confused because it's not what you would expect to see, but even so, that doesn't bother me, and it doesn't make it a bad set by any means. This set is honestly just great all the way around. This one we should have all seen coming. This is the biggest Ninjago set ever made, and it's simply on a different level than the other sets, and yet it's still somewhat underrated. I've already made a whole video talking about this set, so I'm not going to go into super big detail here, but a lot of people's main problem with the set is that they just don't like it as much as Ninjago City or Ninjago City Gardens. And I mean, that's fine, but I do think you're doing a major disservice if you're writing the set off solely because of that, because this set is just as good as those sets. This set is amazing. There are so many awesome Easter eggs and minifigures on this set that you would never get in any other set, and it truly is a love letter to the original series. Out of every set that came out this year, this is the one I would say every Ninjago fan should absolutely do whatever they can to get, because there's just nothing else quite like it.